working for other, and I would write until I had to go to work. Then I would go to work grouchy because I was already tired.
Yeah.
And now I certainly don't have to do that. But there was a while, there was an in-between time when I got up around 3 or 4, just because I liked the early morning hours before the light changed. And now I get up probably between 5:30 and 6. And I get to write most of the day, unless I have to go out and do something. And I do that.
Is it a joy for you?
Oh, yeah.
Just writing is a joy.
Well, I get to read and write. You don't just sit there all day and punch away. But the reading stimulates my thinking in so many directions that, yes, it's definitely a joy.
What did the MacArthur Genius Grant? Other than money.
First off, they don't call it that. And if it really was that, they probably wouldn't have given it to me. But
what do they call it?
MacArthur Fellowship.
Fellowship.
Yeah.
Oh, the genius thing they don't say. They say fellowship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, somebody made that up.
Some newspaper.
Yeah.
Person.
I liked getting it. Of course, I liked getting it. Stupid. Everybody would like getting it.
Yeah, of course.
But I especially liked 2 things. One, it gave me a chance to buy my first house.
Yeah.
I was going to do that anyway, but I couldn't have afforded one someplace where I would have been comfortable about living. I mean, I have already been burglarized several times in the rented digs that I was in. So I didn't really want to buy a house and have that happen over and over again. The other thing was, all of a sudden, people who had not paid any attention to my work because it was just that science fiction garbage,
right,
began to pay attention to it. And that means a great deal.
Are you trying to create a new Black mythology?
No.
You know,
no.
Someone read.
No, I'm
I read
telling
somebody
stories
wrote
that interest me. Well, I mean, one of the things that happens to your work once it's out there is that people bring things to it.
They try to define it.
Sure. Not only that, but sometimes what's important to them gets all mixed up in it. And one of the things that I tell people who are reading my work critically is that what they bring to it is at least as important to them as what I put into it. And that's true.
What then is central to what you want?
Hello, hello, hello. Hello, party people. Hello, beautiful people. Hello, book buddies, Black feminists, bibliophiles, Afrofuturists. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to Octavia Taught Me 12 Lessons from Parable of the Sower. This is a collaboration between my beloved comrades, the Malcolm X Grassroots movement, specifically the New African Womanist Caucus, which I am a part of. This is Ola speaking, by the way. I know my thing says Uhura. That's like a nickname I go by sometimes, but this is Ola speaking from Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. I'm also the creator and director of the Free Black Women's Library, which is a social art project that features over 5,000 books written by Black women and Black non-binary folks based in Bed-Stuy. If you're ever in the area, please come by. You're welcome to use the space to read, write, work, rest, daydream, and just chill and relax. We also have free workshops that happen pretty much every other Sunday, writing workshops and creating craft workshops. We just had a quilting workshop this past Sunday that was off the chain. And what else? Oh, we trade books every Sunday. We trade books written by Black women and Black non-binary folks, which means that for every book you bring, you get to take a book, a good book. Yes, let me see if I can get that link for you, Barbara. I will try to get that link for you. I'm not very tech savvy, so we're gonna work this out. But I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited to talk about this book. Definitely come through to the library. Let's see. We have a virtual reading club that meets on the last Sunday of every month, where we talk about specific books. This past Sunday, we talked about Passing and Sula, which have some similarities. We talked about sisterhood, and we talked about The Labor of Life, The Captive Maternal. Shout out to Joy James. And it was a deep conversation. So yeah, come to Reading Club if you're not based in Brooklyn or nearby. And if you are in Brooklyn or nearby, come to the library. So before we get into this book, thank you, Isha. Before we get into this book, we want to share information with you about the Malcolm X Grassroots movement and the New African Women's Caucus. So my beloved sister Ayo is going to share some info with you about these organizations. And then after that, we're going to get into this book. All right. Awesome. Take it away.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Ola, and the Free Black Women's Library. I greet you all warmly in our battle cry, free the land, free the land, free the body, free them all. I hope everyone is doing really well this evening of Women's History Month. Just so honored to be here this evening repping the Malcolm X Grassroots Movement, MXGM, and the New African Womanist Caucus. Just wanted to share a few things with you this evening. So MXGM is co-sponsoring this event tonight with the Free Black Women's Library, and we wanted to share a few details with you about who we are, right? And we do that by way of our principles, so that you know who we are. And in case you don't have an organizational home and you looking for one, you might want to get down with us. We have chapters throughout the nation, throughout the empire, as we call it, because we know that this is a settler colonial state. And so wherever you are, there's likely to be some folks who are affiliated with us that you might want to also get down with. Yay, Bo. So we have six.
Yay, Bo.
We have 6 primary principles that we organize around. Number 1, we actively support and struggle to defend the human rights of African people in the United States and around the world, right? So yes, we are Black nationalists, but we are also Pan-Africanists, right? We understand that this is a Pan-African moment, right, in the lives of our people everywhere. We know that our freedom and liberation here is connected to a global reality and a global struggle. Number 2, we demand reparations or repayment for 400 years of captivity, colonialism, and oppression of our people in the United States of America. Number 3, we promote self-determination and must organize for liberation of African nation held colonized in these United States. Number 4, we oppose genocide or the acceptable and calculated killing of our people by individuals and institutions and organizations of the United States government through lynching, disease, police terror, and any other means. And we know that comes in so many different forms. Number 5, we demand the release of activists who have been imprisoned because of their commitment in seeking human rights and liberations for our people. These brothers and sisters and non-binary folk are political prisoners and prisoners of war, and they should be recognized as such. Yay, Bo. And this also includes prisoners in exile, right? Our freedom fighters who may not be prisoners behind the walls, but who are living in exile away from their families, who were able to make it outside of the borders of this empire, but are nonetheless disconnected from loved ones. And we want to bring them home to be reunited. Number 6, this one we have continued to work on, right? To evolve and expand. And we are proud, particularly of the New African Womanist Caucus, of our work to continue to expand this principle. And it states that we work to dismantle all systems that subjugate New Africans who are oppressed based on gender and sexuality. We must take uncompromising stance against all forms of sexist oppression and cis heteropatriarchy. We say New African, and we say free the land. And so we are just so very pleased to be with you this evening to discuss this wonderful, pivotal work of the incomparable Octavia Butler in Parable of the Sower. And I turn it back over to Ola. Thank you.
Thank you, Ayo. You're amazing. Ayo means joy, and Ayo is absolutely joyous. And I'm grateful for you. So if there's anyone on this call interested in learning more about the New African Womanist Caucus or the Malcolm X Grassroots movement, please let me know. We have open membership for Black identifying folks, and there's different ways to plug in. All right, speaking of plug in, let's get into this book. Yes. This is one of my favorite books to talk about. As you can tell, you can probably hear in my voice. I'm excited. So this book came out in 1993, and honestly, when I first read it, I fell in love with it immediately for what might feel like superficial reasons. Now that I'm much older, because this was the first time I'd read a book that had a character with my name in it. Like the main character, her name is Lauren Oya Olamina, and I had never encountered that before. And I'm sure many of you who are book lovers might be able to associate with that feeling of reading a book that has a character that feels like you for the first time, whether you were a teenager or a young adult, or maybe a child. Exciting things these days are going on within literature, and thankfully, our babies have a lot more options when it comes to finding representation. But anywho, so yes, this is Parable the Sower. Please drop a little, like your favorite emoji in the chat if you have read this book already, just to get a sense of who's in here. And when I first, after reading this book, I was like, okay, I'm in love with this book. This book is amazing. I didn't really attach a lot of political ideas to it. I was young and kind of not very much aware. But then much later on, when I decided to just kind of brand myself as a socio-literal theorist in terms of like consuming books by Black women and Black people, rereading it, I realized that, or I deciphered that within this text, Octavia is actually giving us some tips and some clues on the different ways that we can not just survive, but thrive in a world that feels chaotic and unhinged. So I did this presentation, or came up with this kind of like little presentation / workshop, and did it for the first time at an Octavia Butler conference like 8 years ago. And I actually haven't done it since. But I think it's pretty good, and I would love to hear y'all's thoughts. So first, before we talk about the book, let's talk about Octavia. Octavia Butler was an only child of a single mother, born in Pasadena, California. She passed away at the age of 58 on the porch of her home. She had some type of like brain aneurysm, I believe. But she left us with a plethora of books to enjoy, as well as all of her archives, which are at the Huntington Library in California. So that would be like her journals, her receipts, her little notes to herself, et cetera, et cetera. But then also there's her books. There's Kindred, Fledgling, Clay's Ark, Wild Seed. Some people consider her to be the godmother of this genre that's known as Afrofuturism, because she was literally the first writer of science fiction and speculative fiction who actually centered Black people in her novels. Like she was the first person who was giving us Black characters who were time traveling and shape shifting and just living in futuristic worlds. Up until that point, science fiction was a very white, male dominated field. And she ended up just coming through. Part of what I love about her is that she had no type of like MFA or anything like that. She started writing at the age of 9 because she saw a sci-fi film called The Girl from Mars. And she was like, this is horrible. I could write better than this. And she started writing short stories, and she would send her, and her mom bought her a typewriter, which I think is so beautiful, such a beautiful part of her story. And she would just write these stories and send them to these magazines. And she kept writing and kept writing. And eventually she got published. And I have the PDF of her first short story. If you're interested in reading that, I could send it to you. But yeah, she went on to win the MacArthur, Hugo, Nebula. She just ate everything up. And what's interesting that's happening now is her work has gained a whole new sense of traction. People are really digging into her work. Her books are being adapted to TV shows and films. Viola Davis is supposed to be making Wild Seed into a film, and Parable of the Sower is supposed to be a series. Like, it's a bunch of her book, Parable of the Sower, which we're talking about, was on the New York Best Time Seller list for the first time since it came out in 1993, for the first time about 3 years ago. So I feel like there's something happening where people are really in tune and excited and really understanding that she was quite prophetic. So yeah, shout out to Octavia. We appreciate her. All right, so survival strategies of a pre-apocalyptic dystopia. Let me just open up. Wait, let me stop sharing for a second and hear from some folks in this space. So I would love for anyone who has read this book already to give me your thoughts, and how would you classify this story? Anyone. And when you come off mic, please just share your name and pronouns. Oh, don't tell me y'all are a quiet group. Okay, all right. So wait, Marquila, are you about to say something? I see you.
Sorry, my kiddos are in the background making all the noise. But
It's okay.
I was just gonna say, the Parable of the Sower and the other book in the series, when you read them together, it almost makes you more endeared with the characters, with the people that you kind of have a hatred for when you read more of the book. I read it when I took the class on her and Tanana Reed-Du at Howard, and I just remember how uncomfortable I was at first with this idea that there was a man who could become all of these things. And then the more that I read the book, and when I read the second part of the series, it made me fall in love with him. It was actually, no, he could come and teleport into my body too. Which is crazy, but that's kind of what I ended up getting out of it. You end up falling in love with her characters because they do things that you would never expect for them to do.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for kicking us off. I know it feels a little intimidating to be the first person to speak, so I appreciate you putting yourself out there. Basically, yes. And also, shout out to Nicole in the chat who wrote spiritual, dystopian, relatable over time. Definitely. Beth says it was timeless and the power of changing God was so powerful. Agree. It's definitely a dystopian story. And it's definitely kind of very much a spiritual story when it comes to classifying it. Like at the Free Black Women's Library, we have things split up into different genres. And I would place it in the spiritual section. I would place it in the sci-fi section, and I would definitely place it in the coming of age section, even the young adult section. The main character, when we meet her, she's only 15 years old, right? And I'm not sure if people know the backstory behind part of what inspired Octavia to write this story is from watching the Rodney King riots on TV, which was one of the first brutal moments of state violence and police violence on a Black body that became, we didn't say the word viral then, but it was basically a life-changing event. It definitely shifted something in us. And she saw that and the riots that took place afterward and said that she began writing Parable of the Sower literally in that moment. And so there was something about that, witnessing that I feel like signified a societal collapse, and she just used her imagination and ran with it. And many of Octavia's books are like that, where she just kind of notices something within society or within the world, within politics, and she uses it as a springboard to tell a story. I just love her mind so much. And I just think it's very appropriate, but also ironic how popular the book is now, considering that it starts out in 2024, because we're in the midst of 2023. And it's like, what does she know? Because the world in Parable of the Sower is not that different from the world that we're in now. I mean, I don't feel like I'm being hyperbolic when I say that these are dystopian times. What makes for a dystopia, right? There's nothing about this government that we can trust. There is nothing, the outside world, being in the world feels unsafe. There's very specific instances that take place in the book that feel like real life. The issues of drug addiction, the issues of mental health, the issues of the commodification of bodies, of poor bodies, like all of that is taking place in real life, in real time. So yeah, but I appreciate everybody. If anyone has any other like specific notes about the book, please feel free to drop them in the chat. I'm gonna go back to sharing my little slideshow that I made. I tried my best. I tried to make it cute, but we shall see. All right, so the first lesson. So I came up with 12 lessons, and I feel like in rereading it to prepare for this conversation, I actually dug out 2 more, but I didn't add them because I would love to know folks' opinion. But the first lesson is be prepared. Now, when we meet Lauren, she is the big sister, the firstborn daughter of four boys. Her mom has unfortunately passed away, and she's being raised by her dad and her stepmom, Corey. But for some reason, there is something in Lauren that has given her some insight and some instinct that the way the world is now is not conducive, and it's not going to be like this forever. Like the way things are now, things are only going to get worse. So she has started preparing herself in different ways to combat what she thinks is to come. And so this is one of the things that she tells her best friend, Joan. At first, she's a little bit cautious, like she's nervous, right? Because she doesn't know how Joan is going to respond to what she's saying, but she takes a risk and she lets Joan know that she's actually been studying maps and collecting seeds. And she's got a to-go bag, she's got cash, she's got water purification tablets. She has started putting all these things in place for herself because she has a feeling that they're gonna have to get going at some point. So this is the first lesson that I've gleaned. Let me see if I can go back. Yeah. Survival strategies. Survival strategies of a pre-apocalyptic dystopia. So when I talk about survival strategies, I'm talking about what are the practices that we can enact within our lives that will increase our chance for survival, and even beyond survival, get us to the point where we can actually thrive within this dystopia. Because even though the novel feels very bleak and sad, there's also an aspect of hope to it, because they continue pushing forward. Like, they continue to not be defeated. Like Maya Angelou says, you will have plenty of issues and problems, or what does she say? But you will not be defeated. Like, choose to not be defeated, regardless of whatever it is you're combating. And that's the vibe that Lauren is rolling with. And that's part of what makes me love this character so much, especially because she's so young. And because she was raised by a preacher dad and a mom, a stepmom who seems to be ambivalent towards her. Okay, so I already talked about being prepared, and I'm just gonna read this one part when she's talking to Joan, and she says, we can get ready. That's what we've got to do now. Get ready for what's going to happen. Get ready to survive it. Get ready to make a life afterward. Get focused on arranging to survive so that we can do more than just get battered around by crazy people, desperate people, thugs, and leaders who don't know what they're doing. I mean, does that resonate with anybody here? If it does, you can hop off your mic and say yay bo, or amen, or ashe, or yes indeed, please. I just want to know if people are listening.
Yeah.
Ashe.
Yes.
Hallelujah.
Bravo.
Yes,
Hallelujah.
absolutely.
Hallelujah.
Oh, yes. Awesome. Awesome. So we can think about that. And getting ready for me and getting ready for you are two different things, right? Getting ready for me means that I have water. Like, I'm obsessed with drinking water and staying hydrated. I feel like that's an obsession for all of us, but maybe it's not. And there's some people who need to have like special medication, or maybe you wear glasses and you want to make sure that you have an emergency pair of glasses and you just don't have one pair. Different little things like that. Like, Lauren is obsessed with her books and wants to carry books around. I feel that. Some people are like, no, I don't, that sounds like baggage. So being prepared means different things to different people. And that's the first lesson. Let's go to the next one. The next one that really stuck out to me is, this is how I just phrase it. And because I'm like a little bit ADHD, I phrase things in like half fragment, half sentences. So if something doesn't make sense, please feel free to just ask a question or, comment. I'm always open to critique and feedback. But it's know your struggles and learn yourself. Now, when I was first doing this workshop, we didn't have, or maybe we did, but I wasn't really familiar with the concept of triggers. Now I'm more familiar with it, and I feel like this lesson right here is kind of connected to the whole triggers conversation. So Lauren's trigger, because she suffers from hyperempathy syndrome, is seeing other people in pain or experiencing harm physically, right? So Lauren, through learning herself, paying attention, doing some self-study, starts to get an understanding of the different situations that she has to avoid, or if she can't avoid them, how to navigate that situation so that she's not incapable of dealing with what's going on. So an example of that is when she shoots somebody in in a certain part of the story, and I hope everyone here has read the story. If not, it's going to be mass spoilers throughout this whole thing. But she shoots someone, and she takes note of the fact that the next time that she has to shoot somebody, she needs to be as close to the floor, to the ground as possible, because she will collapse. Like, that's just it, point blank, period. So she's like, when I'm shooting, I need to be low to the ground so that that impact of my body hitting the floor doesn't cause me pain. So I'm taking that and interpreting that to mean like, we all have triggers and we all know the different things. Like we all kind of, well, we all have triggers, and it's up to us to kind of learn what they are and how to process them, how to work through them. Because like moving through the world, a dystopian world, like the kind we're in right now, we will be triggered. Like it's just gonna happen. Someone's gonna say something that's gonna set us off, that's going to possibly make us angry or make us want to cry or fight. Who knows? We need to know what situations need to be avoided. Like if you're not the type of person that wants to hear about child abuse, like for me, I know one of my triggers is like seeing children being harmed. So like I know that I don't watch movies where children are being abused. Like I just don't do that. That once I've heard that there, I won't even get into it, but yes. So I don't deal with that. I don't expose myself to that type of media because it'll give me nightmares. Does that make sense? Anybody there feel me?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. So know your struggles, learn yourself, study yourself, figure out what are the things. And it's not like, even though Lauren classifies it as a weakness and a painful experience, it's not necessarily a weakness. It's just a part of it's part of being human. Like we're human beings and we're going to have, you know, wounds and like tender areas that give us pause. It might set us off balance. So, nope. So yes, because in addition to her hyper empathy being about sharing pain, she also gets to share pleasure. So it's not necessarily a bad thing to have these wounds that need extra special attention. Next, practice pleasure. Yes. Now, it's a chaotic world. Think places are on fire. There's drug addicts setting things on fire. There's there's no drinkable running water. There's guns blazing. There's humans literally eating other humans. But what does Lauren decide to do? She decides to take on a lover who's like 3 times her age. And I love this for her. And I also love that she encourages her the small community that she's building when it's just Lauren and Harry and Zara, and she discovers that Harry and Zara have been having sex, making love when they're supposed to be watching what's going on, when they're supposed to be like on guard, right? She's angry and she's upset, but she doesn't necessarily say, oh, what the hell's wrong with you? Y'all can't be, y'all all grown, right? Y'all not supposed to be fucking right now. We supposed to be like trying to survive this. No, she says to Zara, listen, and she doesn't even talk to Harry about it, right? She says to Zara, listen, you want privacy? I will give it to you, but you can't be doing that. Like, I will watch out for y'all. And I love her for that. And I love Octavia for adding this in this story, because I feel like part of what she's saying to us is, do not deny that part of yourself that needs touch, that needs affection, that needs caress, that needs sensitivity, that needs sensuality, that needs love, like regardless. Yes, the world is on fire, and yes, there's violence at every corner, and and people are just out of control. But you know what? You're still a human being. And if you find somebody that you feel safe enough with to have intimacy, please go for it. Go for it. It's a survival strategy. And intimacy is different things to different people, right? For some people, it's the actual act of sex. For some, it's just holding hands and being together, going for walks, cooking together, et cetera, et cetera. So when I talk about pleasure, I'm not just talking about sexual pleasure, but I'm just also talking about certain activities that we do that the main purpose of it is just to feel good. Hello? Hello? Anybody there?
We
hear
Yes, we hear you.
Okay.
Ashe, ashe.
All right.
Bow.
I'm sorry. I'm just like checking in because I
Yeah.
don't see anybody, so I don't know who's out there. All right, next up. The next one is stay focused. So another line pulled from the text. She says, we don't have to hurt anyone. We just can't put our guard down. So this is connected to the idea of practicing pleasure. Lauren is very much about surviving. She uses the word survive so often in this text that it almost feels like a mantra. It feels like a mantra. It feels like a prayer. It feels like a mission. She's specifically about survival. And she is willing to do whatever it takes to survive. She is willing to strip a dead body of its clothes and its money and its weapons. She is willing to shoot and kill, right? She's not going to force anyone to join her caravan. She is just going to let folks know, this is my plan, this is what I'm doing, and if you want to come along, you are welcome to come along, but I will not be moved from my mission, which is to get to where I need to be to form this community, Earthseed. So this is one of the things that she says to Harry. Harry is somewhat, he's somewhat shocked, and he's also, it takes him a minute to get it together. It takes him a minute to get on board. And he's surprised that Lauren is like she has no qualms about stealing. The fact that she slit that man's throat, like he was stunned. And I can imagine that's probably a very jarring thing to witness, a 15-year-old girl killing someone. But it's like, it was either him or me. So I choose me. So this is her focus. She's not interested in hurting people unless they are a threat to her living, and she's not interested in hurting people unless she has no other choice. And this is a sense of focus that I really aim to achieve in my own life. Not to say that I want to murder anybody, but I want to have a sense of deep, precise clarity around my life and the goals of my life and the things that I'm trying to accomplish, and how there needs to be nothing or no one to take me off my path. Like they're walking down this road and there's fire on either side. And there are people who are like tattered and tired and walking with weapons and guns and just scavengers. And she's just like steady walking, just going, just walking, keeping her eyes peeled from left to right, noticing people's twitches and ticks and eye movements and energy, and really understanding like, okay, what's around me, and nothing's taking me off this path. Next one, which feels kind of timely in this day and age. And like I said, like when I first came up with these survival strategies, these principles, these lessons, these tips gleaned from this text, there were a lot of ideas that I wasn't really privy to. And this one around gender is something I'm definitely developing a better awareness of. And I find it very brilliantly strategic that Lauren decides to navigate a large part of her journey as a male presenting person. And I think part of what Octavia is saying in this text is there are certain ways that things and ideas that society projects onto people based on how they present. And I think that, oh, B, did you want to say something? No? Oh, I'm sorry. It's okay. It's okay. There are certain ways and ideas that society projects on people based on how they present. And Octavia I feel like part of what she's doing is critiquing this, critiquing the fact that society does this. Like if people see Lauren as male, then they see her as less of a threat, which is like ridiculous, because her level of being a threat, her ability to protect herself has nothing to do with her gender at all. But there's an assumption that if she is perceived as then she becomes prey. Her potential for becoming a victim increases. And I think that Octavia does a lot of like teasing with gender ideas in her work. If you haven't read Dawn, I recommend Dawn as something that where she plays around with ideas of gender as well. And I love that for her. And I love this for Lauren. There's a situation where they recruit some new people. Her and Harry and Zara recruit a new couple to the camp. And Harry refers to her as her. And it's not until then that the new couple, Natividad, the baby, and her husband realize that Lauren is actually a girl. Not only is she not a man or a boy, she's a 15-year-old girl. And their whole attitude towards her changes. Like all of a sudden they like soften to her, and it's just like there's like this shift. And I think Octavia is asking us to like question that, and just question and really tease out the ideas we have around what's possible based on whether someone is male or female, quote unquote. I'm putting male and female in quotes. So that's the next one.
I mean, I'm sorry, I was just gonna say, like, I don't even know if it was just gender, like it was even age, because she was not the oldest person there. She was very young, but she was like a leader in the camp. And it's like it was just like turning on our head our ideas of who can be powerful in general, and who has power and what power really looks like.
Yes, 100%. Can you please share your name with us?
Sorry, I'm Marquila, guys.
Oh, thank you, Marquila. Yes, I agree with you 100%. I agree with you. And yeah, I think maybe we can add age to that same that same strategy. Defy gender and defy age, or rethink gender and rethink age. I definitely when it comes to the Free Black Women's Library, I make sure that it is an intergenerational project. Like, for our reading club, we have anywhere from ages 14 all the way up to age 70 that comes to reading club to discuss these books and discuss these ideas. I always make sure to have like young people around me, have young folks kind of like guiding me, giving me insight, giving me advice. Like, I feel like I never want to underestimate somebody based on their age, because like, my intern is 17 and she's taught me so much. That's just like, so yes, 100%. I agree with you wholeheartedly. The next one is, and if anybody wants to say anything, please just do what Marquila did and just hop off mic. Please feel free to do that. This is an informal space. She says in the book, she's writing in her journal, and she says, here are some of the things I've learned today. Study and research. Study and research is most definitely a survival strategy, and I feel like it's one of the most powerful ones. I think that whatever it is that interests you, whatever your passions are, whatever you feel drawn towards, whatever specific ideas you go to sleep thinking about, or wake up thinking about, or dream about, or kind of like motivate you and get you excited, please, you owe it to yourself to really take a deep dive into those things. Take a deep dive, study those things to the point where you feel like you're an expert at it and you could actually teach a workshop or lead your own community with the knowledge that you've gained. Like, if it's herbalism, please, like, study it to its core, learn about it, learn to recognize plants, learn to make teas, learn to make tinctures, learn to make oils. If it's parenting, mothering, if it's reproductive health, stuff around menstruation and pregnancy, like, for all of you who are birth care workers, who are doulas, midwives, OBGYNs, dive in and dig in. Like, every single thing that you feel drawn to that kind of like gets you open and feeling really expansive and in your bag, guaranteed that knowledge and information that you gain, it's not just only going to enhance your life, it'll enhance the lives of everyone around you. The fact that Lauren knew how to grow food, the fact that Lauren knew how to read a map, the fact that Lauren knew how to read is part of what saved her and her community. It's part of what gathered people to her. It's part of what made people trust her to take the lead. The fact that she had this information, and she was not just that she had it, but she was willing to share it. The fact that she was willing to teach other folks to read, she didn't hold it over their heads, teach them how to read and write. So I highly recommend studying and researching.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I agree with you.
Say your name, honey. I know it's you, but go ahead for those who don't.
Yes, this is Ayo, everybody, in Brooklyn. I mean, for me, I think it changed what it meant to truly know something, right? To not just be a student of something or to study something, but what does it truly mean to know, right? It means that you have to study it, that you have to practice it, to live it. What I remember vividly from the book is her being able to make acorn bread, or like to take the acorns and then grind them into powder, and then that powder become a flour. I was like, yo, that's next level. Growing up and knowing how to camp and that being recreational, but then turning that into a skill that you have to live by. How do we take these skill sets that we have that feel very pedestrian, very recreational things that we enjoy, but also practice them in such a way that we can really lean on them for true survival. I think this book elevated those things for me in a really meaningful way. And I thought, just like, and I put Harriet Tubman in the chat because I think this particular protagonist remind me a lot of Harriet, that there were these little seeds that her family gave her as a child that she was able to lean on and develop, that helped her be the leader that she was. Yeah.
Yes.
If
Oh.
I could piggyback on that just a little bit.
Please, and share your name for us.
And my name is E, pronouns she and her. That just made me, through saying like she was given those seeds, it made me think about the name of the book, her being a sower, and like a literal sower of seeds, because she could grow food, but also a sower of like this new community that she hopes to build, you know, that can be free of, at least as free as she can hope, from the chaos that's going on in the world.
100%. 100%. Thank y'all so much for chiming in. Oh, I love it. I love it. And I also want to lift up what Kay shared in the chat. She said, and you don't need a formal collegiate setting to validate your learning. Period. Period. Once again, I have to say that Octavia, she didn't have no like masters in creative writing or fiction. She wasn't a product of the academic scholarship. Like, is there anything wrong with that? Like, shout out to the PhDs in the room. I love y'all. But I think that sometimes we get a little intimidated, or we feel like, or we kind of like downplay what we know. We kind of, because we don't have any type of like certification or whatever to back it up. But it's like, yes, trust your knowledge, trust what you know, and consider to sharpen yourself. Like, consider yourself a sword, and consider to sharpen yourself and stay up to date and stay connected to people who are into what you're into. There's organizations, there's trade organizations and cultural organizations and craft organizations that are specifically for us, right? And if there isn't one, listen, I'm gonna give y'all some labor, start one. Just like I wanted to start, I wanted a library that focused on Black women's writing, and I didn't feel like there was anything that gave me what I wanted. So I was like, I guess I'm gonna start one. So let's go on to the next one. This one is archive and journal and track your lessons. Now, another genre that this book would fall into is that it's a diary, right? Similar to Alice Walker's The Color Purple, which is basically a collection of letters to God. Parable the Sower is Lauren's diary. And for those who've read Parable of the Talents, I don't want to spoil it too much for y'all, but the journal of the Parable of the Sower becomes a text that is very significant within Parable of the Talents. So I think, or I believe, that part of what this lesson, this survival strategy for this pre-apocalyptic dystopia we're in, is that we should keep track of the knowledge and information that we're gaining about ourselves and about the world and our community in some shape or fashion, whether it's a diary or a journal or a collection of photographs. We notice that there's something really powerful about seeing photographs of Toni Morrison dancing, or Harriet Cole like planting flowers. You know, there's something that feels very like soothing and very affirming and very connecting and very relatable when we look at photographs or journals or items that belong to our own ancestors, our own like grandparents, grandmothers, great grandfathers, when we see things like birth certificates or baby shoes or a specific mug that an uncle made who's like passed on, like there's something very sacred and very divine and very affirming and very powerful and very motivating about getting in touch with an ancestor through a journal, a diary, a letter. And also there's something very sacred and powerful and affirming about keeping a journal and going back 10 years, like jumping forward 10 years and going back and reading what you wrote in your journal 10 years ago, where your mind was, what you were thinking, what you were feeling, what you were accomplishing at that time. Like, you learn lessons about yourself through tracking your progress and through tracking your ideas. And you learn your patterns. If you're someone like me, you might learn like, oh my goodness, I was dealing with the same issue 2 years ago. All right, let me see if I can get myself together. You learn that how you've moved forward and how you've grown. Like, oh, wow, I used to not be able to do this and now I can. And it kind of motivates you to keep going. And I hope this doesn't sound too morbid, but all the things that you're using to keep track of yourself and your life and your growth and your wins and your losses, whatever way you decide to do that, whatever things you decide to keep, whether it's scraps of fabric or whether it's taking a photograph every day, those things are going to become precious materials for the people who want to connect with you after you've passed on. I hope that doesn't sound too heavy and too morbid to the people in the room.
Absolutely not. That's right.
Thank you. There's a woman I know who has an organization about like how to be a good ancestor. And I think that this is one way. So it's not just a survival strategy for you, it's the survival strategy for the seeds that you bear. Whether they're children that you give birth to, or whether they're people that you mentor, or people who just end up feeling connected to you because the way you live your life resonated with the way they've chosen to live their lives. So do what you can. There's a book called The Artist's Way, which recommends something called morning pages, where the first thing you do when you wake up every morning is you just write 3 pages, 3 free written pages. No judgment. Don't judge what you write down. Don't try to use perfect English. It's just like a dump, like a word dump, a mind dump, just to get all the ideas out. If you're going through something significant, if you're training for like a marathon, or you're in school, you're in college and you're working towards a degree, or you're about to get married, or whatever it is, write about it. Write about the experience. Write what's happening, and stay connected to that work. Next up, trust your intuition. Now, Lauren is very specific about who she decides to let into her camp and who she aims her gun at. Like, no, keep it moving with whatever energy it is you're bringing. I believe that all of us are born with strong and precise intuition. I believe that all of us are born with a sense of knowing what's good for us and what's not good for us. I believe that all of us are born with the knowledge and born with the answers to every question that we might come up with in our lifetime. But society, being unhinged, being chaotic, being sexist, being colorist, being patriarchal, being violently heteronormative and oppressive, the different systems that impact us, they impact us spiritually and they impact us psychically, and they can cause a severing of that intuition. They can cause distress for it. They can cause a type of thing where there's doubt that comes into play. And I'm interested in thinking of ways for us to really learn to trust that inner voice, so that when it comes to when we're walking down our own personal path and that fire is burning to the right and to the left, and random people are walking alongside us in this world of chaos, I'm interested in us having such a deep trust in our intuition that we know exactly who we're supposed to be walking alongside. Like, we just know, and exactly who to avoid. So I'm going to pause here, and we're going to do a little mini exercise, and then we'll come back to finish the rest of the little survival strategies. How's everybody feeling?
Great.
We good.
Blessed.
Blessed. Wonderful.
Awesome.
Great.
Awesome. All right. So here's the exercise we're going to do. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you so much. We're going to do a breathing exercise. Now, one of the biggest tactics for me that I have come to discover as a yoga teacher and somebody who wants to be somebody who considers myself to be a meditation practicer is breathing exercises. Breathing exercises do very different things to the brain and the mind and the heart. One of the major things that they do for the brain is they kind of help you to slow down your thoughts and come to a sense of clarity. Okay. So what we're going to do is a 5-minute breathing exercise. So wherever you are, I'd like for you to sit up if it's possible, so that both of your feet are on the floor. All 4 corners of the feet are connected to the floor, and the feet are hip width apart. And if you can also sit up tall, please do. That means that the shoulders are above the hips, and the back is flat and straight, and the head is centered right in between the shoulders. The hands can be on your knees, palms down or palms up. And if you feel comfortable closing the eyes, you can close the eyes, or if you would rather not close the eyes, you can also just look down towards the floor. So we can have the palms on the knees, and we can close the eyes or look down. We can take a deep breath into the nose. And a long, slow breath out of the mouth. Take a deep breath into the nose. And a slow breath out of the mouth. We're going to ease into a deeper breathing exercise, which some yogis refer to as 3-part breathing. And we'll start by breathing into the chest. So next time you inhale, take your time and imagine your lungs filling up slowly as if they were a balloon, allowing the chest to expand and lift up. Slow breath in. As you exhale, soften the chest and let it melt down towards your thighs. And as you soften the chest, feel the muscles of the chest soften down as you breathe out. So let's try that again. Breathe in slow into the chest. Breathe out slow. Soften the chest. Breathe in. Feel the chest expand. Exhale. Feel it melt down. Now we ease into part 2. Inhale. Lift the chest and feel the ribs move away from each other. So feel the ribs expand out, right? And with the exhale, imagine the ribs drawing back towards each other and the chest melting down. Inhale into the chest, then the ribs. Exhale, bring the ribs together, chest melts down. Inhale, slow. Chest, ribs. Exhale, ribs, chest. Easing into part 3. Inhale, chest, ribs. Feel the stomach expand. Feel the stomach fill up. You can even let it open up. And then as you exhale, draw the navel back towards the back. Let the ribs come together. Let the chest soften down towards the thighs. So this is the 3-part breathing. We inhale slow. Chest, ribs, belly. And then we exhale, belly, ribs, chest. Inhale slow. Chest, ribs, belly. Exhale, belly, ribs, chest. So find the rhythm of your breath, find that flow, and allow that fresh energy to slowly enter in through the nostrils, travel up through the body, through the face, down into the lungs, the ribs, the stomach. As you exhale, feel the air kind of spilling out of you. You squeeze it out through the stomach, the ribs, and it comes out. So I'm going to set a timer for 2 minutes, and we're going to do 3-part breathing for 2 minutes. And I'd like everyone to really focus and really feel that fresh oxygen feeding the cells, the blood, the muscles, the bone, the brain, everything, okay? So I'm gonna set the timer and really enjoy.
Feel like this is the biggest thing. So I trust you for a million.
All right, y'all, that was 2 minutes. How y'all feeling? Good?
Good.
Relax.
I needed that.
Relax.
Excellent, excellent, excellent.
Beautiful and so calming.
I'm so happy. I'm so happy to hear it.
Grounded.
Yes. I'm so happy to hear it. I'm so happy to hear it. And I definitely hope that you will understand that when you take time out for yourselves to really just engage with your breath, what you're doing is honoring your own life force. You're honoring your mind, you're honoring the energy, the chi, the ashe, the prana that represents you, the person that you bring into the room, the person that you bring to your lover, your community, your children, your family members, your organizations, your work. You're taking time out to really get in touch with the essence of who you are, like your breath. That's the symbol of your life. Like that's you. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And I truly do believe that meditation and breath work is part of what will lead us back to trusting our own intuition and trusting our own voice. So what I tell people is if you can spare 5 minutes to do a breath exercise, please do it. Whether it's during your lunch break, before you go to bed at night, first thing in the morning, before you have breakfast, after you have lunch, give yourself that 5 minutes to just listen to your breath. And if your thoughts race, that doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. If you feel like you get distracted, if it feels like 5 minutes is an hour, it's all fine. Like it's all good. Just push through. And I guarantee you you'll feel, I don't even know what the word is, but you'll feel more clear. And I think that intuition is, that clarity comes from you trusting your intuition. All right, so let's get back to the slides. We're almost there. We're almost at the end. I can't wait to hear folks' thoughts. Next one, actualize your rituals. Now, all these things are connected to me. I hope they feel connected to y'all. Meditation, breath work, writing in a journal, keeping a journal, studying and research. These are all rituals to me, right? Oftentimes when we hear rituals, we might think of something lofty like a baptism or like writing a letter to what we're trying to get rid of, setting it on fire and then burning the ashes. Like those are rituals. I'm all about that. Okay. I'm all about all the rituals in the world. And I feel like this is a survival strategy for us. This is a way to connect to spirit. Like whether you believe in God, Jesus, Oya, Oshun, Buddha, yourself, for those who are atheists, I'm sure you believe in yourself, right? Like whatever it is you believe in, there are different practices that take place that affirm that massage, that tease out, that confirm that belief system, right? So it might be wearing white for a year and not looking in the mirror. It might be fasting for Ramadan, right? It could be anything. But these rituals are the ways that we connect with the spiritual side of ourselves. Meditation and breathing is one of mine. One of the ones that they employ in the book is when they decide to have a funeral for their dead. they don't have the bodies of their dead, right? But they know that they've suffered grief, they've suffered so much loss, and they feel like they need to do something to memorialize. They need to do some type of activity, some type of ritual, have some type of moment to acknowledge the fact that there are people that they love who've passed on. They've been on this journey for years. Like when Lauren first goes on the journey, it's 2025. When the book ends, it's 2027. So these are people that have been mourning and grieving and traveling for 2 years. There's no bodies to bury, but still, they make it a point to do something. They plant the oak trees, right? To symbolize that those people that they've loved, their spirit and their energy is still with them. So is there anyone in the room that would like to come off mic to share a ritual that they engage in that really works for them? I will share that one of mine is definitely having an altar in my home and engaging with my altar on the full moon and the new moon, with candles, with incense, with water, with flowers or leaves. Like I try to make sure I have all the elements represented on my altar. So fire, water, earth, air is all there. I don't know if that's too personal of a question. There's prayer, right? The ritual of prayer. My mom is definitely a praying woman. Anytime I tell her that I'm working towards something or want something, she's like, she has a prayer line and they meet on the phone every day at 9 p.m. And she's like, we're going to pray for exactly what it is. It could be a job. It could be an apartment. If I tell her it's something I want, she's like, all right, I'm going to put in some prayer for you. So I believe in that. I heard somebody come off mic. Go for it, please.
I have an altar too, and I have a picture of my aunt who passed away last year. And so every once in a while, and if I'm like having a glass of wine, I'll pour her a glass of wine. She liked, when she parties, she likes to smoke a Black and Mild. So if I'm stopping at the gas station every once in a while, I'll get her a Black and Mild and just sit it out there and, tell her I love her and I miss her, and thank her for looking after me. And that's a ritual that means a lot to me. It just keeps me feeling connected to her. And then also the ritual of eating breakfast every day, like sitting down and actually eating instead of rushing here and there first thing in the morning, is really important to me.
Amazing. Can you share your name with us?
Sorry, my name is B again.
Oh, B. Wonderful. My girl, B. Thank you. Yes, that was perfect. That was perfect because you totally emphasized and amplified one of the points that I'm trying to make about this survival strategy and all the other survival strategies, is that they are subjective. They are personal. And we can come up with our own ways to employ these within our lives. So a ritual for me would be very different from one for you. But what do they do for us and what do they mean to us? That's the whole point. Somebody might be like, a Black and Mild. Meanwhile, your aunt is like, yes, baby B, I see you, girl. Her spirit is right there with you, living it up.
Can I just say, I absolutely agree that they're—
Yes, please share your name with us.
Yeah, Aisha. They're unique, and at the same time, they're like these common threads that I think connect us in so many ways. And so my ritual very much does involve altar work, has both my father and my grandmother. And we don't do wine or Black and Milds, but I do corned beef sandwiches and I sit down and I have—
Yes, corned beef. All right.
sit down and I have lunch with my father, you know, and watch a live sporting event, because that's what we would do, sit on the couch after having some lunch. So there's some connection or commonality too, even with the distinction.
100%. Thank you, Aisha. That was amazing. I love it. I love y'all. Thank y'all for sharing. I really appreciate it. All right, let's go to the next one. I was really trying to finish by 8:30. That's part of the reason why I feel like I'm talking fast, but we'll get there. We're almost done. Speak well. Now, many of y'all might already be familiar with the book, The Four Agreements. I feel like this is connected to one of the agreements, which is be impeccable with your word. And I think that's something that Lauren is most definitely, like, Lauren as a character is so impeccable with her word. Like, she does not pull punches. She does not beat around the bush. She's not passive aggressive. Like, she's very direct and very clear. Like, this is what I'm about. I'm trying to build this Earthseed community. Are you down? Are you not? And unfortunately, just like the whole severing of the intuition, I think a lot of what happens in society, especially when it comes to the lives of Black women, Black femmes, oppressed folks, I think sometimes we are, it can be a little awkward and a little uncomfortable to speak our truth and be clear about our demands, about our boundaries, what we will and will not put up with, be clear about what it is we want for ourselves and say that vocally. And also, I think this ties to the fact that the more clear you are about what it is that you're here and want to do, and the more clear you are about how you vocalize that, I think the more people trust you. Like, again, I think part of the reason why this crew of folks who are all much older than Lauren decide to let her lead is because she's so clear and so well-spoken and so definitive about her mission and Earthseed. And they try to, there are different moments where, especially with the men in the group, there are different moments with moments of tension with the men in the group where they try to, like, you know, challenge her and talk down to her and, like, offer pushback on her Earthseed ideas. But eventually, as time goes on, they're like, yeah, this thing is lit. Like, eventually, because she's not intimidated, she's like, this is what it is. And she has the answer to all their questions. And even when she doesn't have the answer, she makes it clear that she's working on it and she's processing in it. There are moments when the women characters, oh, Ayo, go ahead.
Hey, no, I mean, that definitely resonates, right? I have an elder who's now an ancestor, actually. He used to say, the answer to all of this is none of this. And I think Olamina, that was her approach, right? That the answer to what was going on for them in that moment was none of this. None of what we knew was going to be our solution, right? She said, what did she used to say? Like, our future lies in the stars. The answer that we're looking for is something that none of us have ever imagined. And the person who holds the answer is the youngest, is the one who, you know, is visioning forward, who is a courageous thinker, who is not bound by convention. And she was the one capable of leading, and it had to be her. It couldn't be anybody else. I thought Octavia Butler was so on point for that. And even in the moment that we find ourselves in now, the folk that we need to look to, I think, are very much going to be the Olaminas of the now.
100%.
And if I to just like add to what she was saying, I
Please,
think
yes.
in the book, one of the things she like has as like one of the, I guess, verses of Earthseed is like falling away from the parent world, which kind of like ties into what they were just saying about like realizing that you're gonna have to step away from how things were done previously, you know, from how previous generations even were set up or trying to do things, or even like what they saw as like freedom or like success. Like I think the scene with like the stars versus like the lights and stuff like that, and something that Lauren Olamina had said was that, you know, her stepmother is like explaining to her how many lights there used to be with all of like, you know, buildings and stuff like that. And Lauren Olamina said something like, I prefer the stars, like the stars are free. And just seeing like, even in that like small example, like it's gonna be something different, just as like they were saying.
100%. Yes. Thank y'all so much. I agree with everything that y'all shared. And I'm curious to know, how does it feel from folks in the room? Like, does it feel foreign to you? Does anything that I've shared so far, does any of it feel like foreign to you? Does any of it feel like strange?
Absolutely not. No.
Awesome. Awesome. I'm so happy to hear that. Does everything I've shared so far feel like it's connected to the dystopia that exists within the book and the dystopia that we're currently living in?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. I think we have like, oh, just two more. All right. So this is the second to last survival strategies for pre-apocalyptic dystopia. Octavia taught me. It is respect nature. Now, part of what this involves in the book for me are the ways that Lauren chooses to interact with the trees, the dogs, the water, the sand, the dirt, everything around her. Like, she sees that this earth and her are in conversation and are in relationship. One cannot, I don't know if I could say one cannot exist without the other, because I feel like the earth could probably exist without us, but or maybe, yeah, I think the earth could exist without us. So it's like, we need the planet more than the planet needs us. So it is very important for us to understand that the way we move through the world has an effect on the way the world functions. I was speaking to someone today who does work around like climate justice and environmental issues, specifically as it relates to Black folks. And she was saying that part of her work and part of her organization work involves ways that Black folks can just like take part in strategies that feel less reactive and more proactive. Because a lot of times when it comes to climate justice and environmental issues and Black folks, it's often scrambling together in an emergency or in the aftermath of an emergency, like a flood or an earthquake or a lack of water and different things like that. And part of the goal and part of the thing that they're working on is like, how can we not just be reacting to climate justice issues, but actually be proactive and prevent ways to not fall prey to like all of these different things. So for me, respecting nature is anything and everything from cleaning up after yourselves, like not littering, to different things. The name of her organization is Black Hive. So for folks who want to learn more about that, I'm hoping to actually have her come and do a talk for us at the Free Black Women's Library soon, to just figure out ways that Black folks can plug into the environmental justice movement, because it's often projected and seen as like not related to Black people, and that's not true. So yes. Oh my goodness, it's 8:38. All right, this is the last one. Build community. Building community is something that Lauren does from page 1 all the way to the very last page. But it's so subtle. It's so subtle the way she does it. It's so powerful. Like, we don't even, or let me not say we, but it wasn't like the first time I read the book, I didn't realize that that's what she was doing until like chapter 22. I was like, oh, she's recruiting people for Earthseed. Like, it wasn't just about, oh, I need to make sure I have people around me to help me to protect myself. It's, I need to have people around me to grow this community that I'm picturing in my mind. And part of what helps her survive is building this community as she's walking along the path. And she links up with Harry and Zara. The first thing she does is she tells them, oh, I found a little abandoned place where I've been sleeping. Let's go there together. The first thing she does is, not the first thing, but after a while, she trusts them and she tells them about how much money she has and the things she has going on. She tells them about her hyper empathy. Then they keep it moving and they find this family with this small baby and she invites them to join them. And then they keep it moving. They find the 2 women that are buried in the burnt house and she brings them along, and it goes on and on and on. And then she finds like the love of her life, possibly, Bankole, no spoilers. And by the end of it, they are a crew, and they don't necessarily love each other, right? They don't necessarily like each other, but they're committed to each other. They're committed to each other's safety. They're committed to each other's well-being, and they're committed to the growth of this unit that they found. And every single one of them has something to offer to help this space grow. We have the character whose name I'm blocking on right now, Allie, I think her name was, who seems to be really good with children, seems to know how to take care of kids. We have Bankole, who's a doctor. We have Harry, who's very handy. We have Lauren, of course, who knows how to read and write, and who also knows how to use a weapon. So everyone is bringing something to the table to make this strong unit, this community called Earthseed. And one of the quotes that I want to share for this last bit is, let me see. Embrace diversity, unite, or be divided, robbed, ruled, killed by those who see you as prey. Now, the reason why I'm highlighting that quote and talking about this specific part in this way is because I do believe that one of the challenges that I've confronted when it comes to organizing with folks, when it comes to strategizing with folks in this dystopia, especially when it comes to issues of systematic oppression, is there's this weird kind of diversity thing that sometimes takes place. And I think that it would really behoove us to get past that, especially when it comes to very specific things, specific issues. And I think that's all I'll say there, because I don't want us to go too long over time. I hope that I haven't gone too long over time for the folks that are still here, but we will be ending soon. This is my last slide. Which one of these strategies resonated with you the most? Which ones are you already employing? And which ones will you add to your list? So we'll just spend like 5 to 7 minutes. I'm gonna stop the share, and we're gonna spend like maybe 5 or 7 minutes before we close out completely. I just want to hear from the folks in the room, like how you're feeling. And I also want to say that before I started, I mentioned that I reread the book to just prepare my mind for this conversation because I hadn't read it in a long time. And I thought of another strategy to add to this list. And I wanted to ask y'all what y'all thought of it. And that one is, don't be afraid to get messy. Don't be afraid of a mess. Don't be afraid of blood, of mucus, of shit, of urine, of digging in the dirt, of sweat, of really just confronting the filth of humanity. Don't be afraid of like fighting and scavenging. Just, yeah. So that was the other one, because there's so much that Lauren does that I feel like she probably thought she'd never be able to do, but she does it. And I just wonder, like, about the preparation for that and like how that feels. And I know for me and my body, it definitely feels awkward and uncomfortable. So something I definitely need to push myself towards. Like, I often walk with a switchblade and a taser, and but I've never had to use either. And I'm like, damn, like I'm thinking about Lauren, how she slit that man's throat. And I'm like, oh, child, when it comes down to the nitty gritty, do you got it, girl? And I'm like, yes, I do. I got it. But anyway, I'm gonna stop talking now because I want to hear from y'all. So talk to me. Tell me what you're thinking. Tell me what you're feeling. Tell me if I missed anything. Tell me how you feel about this book, how you feel about this story. I consider it a dystopian coming of age, Black feminist, spiritual text, as well as a journal and a diary, as well as a life guide, as well as a prophetic message from the foremother of Afrofuturism. So talk to me.
Hi. What you were just saying about like not being afraid to get dirty. I feel like that's something that I was took away from the book as well. As far as like, I don't know, I think somebody mentioned it in the chat earlier, but I feel like, we've, especially like in this kind of like in the United States, right? Like it's a lot of like conditioning and programming to just kind of wait for things to like be handed to you, right? Like, I mean, school is kind of like teaching you how to be an employee. Like it's not necessarily like built into like our culture to really like push people to create something for themselves, or like, get dirty, get messy, try something new, do something different. And I feel like this book for me just kind of like, I don't know if woke me up is the right word, but as far as like thinking about like the choice that I have, right, to either, I can kind of keep doing things the way that I've been doing them and like feeling unfulfilled, or kind of keep waiting for something to happen to me, or waiting for my life to get handed to me in a way, like, or, I can do something about it, right? Go out there, like do something, get dirty, like you're talking about, like not be afraid, like, and then really like create the life that I'm looking for. And I feel like that's just like a really powerful lesson that like Octavia like highlights in the book, at least for me personally.
Yes, 100%, Kayla. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. That definitely resonates. One of my dream projects for the Free Black Women's Library is to arrange like a camping trip for Black folks, where we go out into the woods for like like a Thursday through a Monday, and we just learn different things like how to start a fire, how to fish, how to read a map, how to recognize like poison ivy and sumac, and just take note of what it feels like to sleep on the ground. Like the way Lauren talks about how she didn't even know that she would feel so comfortable sleeping on the ground. And it's something that I've mentioned to a few friends of mine, and one of my friends was like, do you mean camping or glamping? And I'm like, no, girl, camping, like in the dirt. She's like, I don't know if I could do all that. And I'm like, I bet you would if you had to. How about that? So yeah, I feel you, like not being afraid of the dirt and the gravel. If you know, if you and your comrade are out there and they get bit by a snake, from what I understand, like you pee on the bite, and that's supposed to like help with the snake. Like would you be willing to pee on your comrade's snake bite? Yes, I most definitely would. I would pee on all of your legs if you needed me to. Does anyone else would like to share? Please feel free to like.
I loved this book. The series, like I said, it blew my mind. And I always loved sci-fi, but Octavia Butler, she gave me the agency to say that I can create sci-fi. Like reading sci-fi and creating sci-fi and being audacious enough to drum up worlds with characters like the characters in the parable of the sower. It's just that, like, that's such a powerful thing to be and to do. And so that was really crazy. And then something else that resonated with me about your survival tactics was just like study and research. I'm biased, but because I'm a nerd and I just did a training. Sorry, my kid. I just did a training on I just did it 1 second, honeybee. You see I'm talking on a video? Do you see the way I'm talking on the video? Yeah, you're gonna have to be patient. Anyway, I did a training on
I
research.
love
like
it.
so many, sorry, yeah. So many of us call ourselves being like lovers of something or passionate about something. And you said that, like, if it's something that you want, then you have to be willing to dive into it. And so I think that, like, with anything, if you're willing to be curious about it, curiosity keeps you young, curiosity keeps your mind functioning. There are lots of studies that talk about adults who read and are curious and who do curious things and how it elongates your life. Like, I don't believe God put us on this earth to be ignorant. And I think that was kind of the struggle with Adam and Eve. Like, if you even believe in that creation story, but it's like the desire to know things, I think, is essential to humanity. And I think that whenever we lose that, we do lose our ability to survive. We do lose our ability to carry on our legacy and to keep ourselves progressing forward, because we're too afraid to continue to learn, and we're too afraid to step out there and wonder or fail or suck at something. Like, you know, like, you're not going to be good at anything when you start it. And too many people are afraid to have that level of curiosity.
100%. Thank you. And thank you for lifting up the sequel. Definitely want to recommend Parable of the Talents for folks
Read
who
the whole series. Yes, read
read
the
it,
series.
because part of what Octavia says in that interview that I was playing right before we started, which is on YouTube. She's on Charlie Rose. There's a part 1 and 2. Part of what she says is that she really would like for people to read both texts, because just reading the one, you won't get the full story. And it actually was meant to be a 3-part text, but unfortunately she passed away before she could write part 3. So instead of being a triptych, it's a duet. And in Parable of the Talents, we meet Lauren's daughter, and I won't say more than that, but I definitely feel like folks should check it out. But if you think Parable of the Sower is bleak, the Talents is yeah, it's like that 2.0. So just be forewarned. Would anyone else like to share anything? I feel like we're going to be closing soon. If anybody would like to share about any of the rituals that resonated with you, if you feel like you are employing any of them in your life already and want to share the ways that you're doing that, whether you're somebody who already has a to-go bag by your front door, whether you're somebody who has been taking self-defense classes or learning how to shoot a gun to be prepared for defending your life, or if you're somebody who's very much interested in like agriculture and permaculture and you're learning how to grow food and prepare food and like heal bodies. Yeah, feel free. Let me know. Teach us. Share your brilliance. Or if you're building community.
I guess I'll hop on here right quick. This is Kay.
Hi, Kay.
I live in Honolulu, Hawaii. And I think building community has been a life effort because I often find myself in limited communities of Black people. And I know that Black people help me thrive. And being connected to Black people help me thrive, even if I am one of a few. And one of the comments I made earlier was like, community is +1, because I think sometimes we can feel defeated in making community and building community, or sometimes people in our community fall in and out of the communities that we're trying to create. And there's still so much value in having like one person show up. I know sometimes we can feel real sad. We're like, I had a party planned and I had a dope thing going on in my basement and only 3 friends came. And that's still community, you know, like you figure out. I used to be so disappointed when no one showed up. I used to think people didn't care or feel really sad and lonely. And I just feel like sometimes people need time to show up. People have different circumstances that aren't, you know, they're not personal, they're not to you. But just the value of one, you know, and appreciating that one person who shows up, or the person who messages you and say they can't come, but like holler at me next time. Yeah, and I appreciate this community too, because honestly, like Octavia Butler's work, I'm not a big sci-fi person. I'm mostly nonfiction, and I've been trying to appreciate Octavia Butler. And people like you creating these spaces helps me to like get deeper into the work and try to appreciate it from a different lens. So thank you for translating and participating.
Oh, thank you, Kay. That was so beautiful. And yes, I definitely agree with you. Like, I remember when I did this workshop several years ago, there was a young woman, a young Black woman who said that she felt like the building community strategy was the most challenging strategy for her. And she actually got emotional and started to cry a little bit. And I was like, yeah, I understand. Like, I know what that means and I know what that feels like. It is hard. It is challenging, especially if you're in a space where you're surrounded by people who don't look like you. But even so, even if you're in a space where people look just like you, right? You could be at a HBCU and still find it hard to build community. So, but it's one of those things that, like you said so perfectly, takes time and it takes grace and it takes patience. It really does. And the thing I said to her, which at the time was something I felt like I was saying to myself, is to just give it time. Don't give up on it and don't give up on yourself. Recognize that just like you feel like the world has something to offer you by just like you feel like there are people in the world who have something to offer you by you allowing them to take up space in your life, it's reciprocal. You have something to offer and you're going to find people who value what you're bringing. And it's just going to take labor. Everything takes labor. And just take risk. And I know for people who are like introverted, for people who don't consider themselves to be people person like me, I'm actually not a people person and I actually hate public speaking, but I love MXGM so much. That's the main reason why I'm doing this, because I just love my NOC sisters. I just put myself out there. And within this moment, we've built a community. We've created a container. We have learned something from each other. We've gathered together, and not to sound lofty or anything, but I feel like all of us are walking away, we'll be walking away from this space with a type of thread that connects us. Even if we never speak again, even if we never meet again, we have been connected to each other in this moment. Like we have created and found community in this moment. And I feel like that's there's something very beautiful about that. I'll hear from one more person before we close out completely. If there's anybody that would like to share. Okay, cool. So we're gonna close out. Please follow me at the Fleabag Women's Library on Instagram. Please follow MXGM and NOC on Instagram. If you're interested in joining the organization, let us know. If you're interested in joining Reading Club, let me know. Please come back. Please continue to read the work of Black women. Best believe it will enhance and take your life and your understanding of the world to a whole nother level. And let's just have one last word. If anybody wants to come off mic and just like say a word on like how you're feeling right now in this moment. Just one word.
Liberated.
Awesome. Thank you, Markayla. Anybody else feeling brave? Awesome, Zami. That's great. That's great.
Connected.
Thank you, B. Love it.
Reflective.
Thank you, Jamaica. Validated. Vanessa says validated. This chat is popping. Inspired, thankful, healing, appreciative, rejuvenated. Yes. All of that. All right, y'all. I am grateful for everyone that showed up for this conversation. Thank you so much for listening to me ramble about this incredible prophetic book. Thank you for your attention. Definitely, if you want to connect, I'm always open. If you want to build community with me, I'm open to that too. Let me just look at my little note card here to make sure I didn't forget anything. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to close this out by reading this little passage. We are all God's seed, but no more or less so than any other aspect of the universe. God's seed is all there is, all that changes. Earth seed is all that spreads Earth life to new Earths. The universe is God's seed. Only we are Earth seed. And the destiny of Earth seed is to take root among the stars. That could be metaphorically or literally. I look at it as metaphorically, thinking expansively and thinking beyond life, right? You have the parable of the sower in the Bible, the sower who sows his seeds. Some seeds fall on rocky ground. Some seeds fall on thorns. Some seeds fall in the midst of fertile soil and grow. So I am wishing you all growth and expansion, comfort, peace, pleasure, joy, all good things. Thank you all so much. We are at a close now, and I'm wishing you all like good things. All right, y'all. That is it. Thank you. Bye, y'all.
Thank
See
you.
Thank you.
Good night. Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
That was really good.